What's going on? It's Byron here from ETA Kitchen, and we're going to make some tomato soup. So I've got 3 different types of tomatoes here that we're going to add into it, and I got a little bit of bell pepper. So I got 3 of these, which are your regular tomatoes. I got 2 plum tomatoes, and these are Turkish pink ladies. I just went to the store, grabbed some tomatoes, and that's what they had. We're going to start with a rough chop. This doesn't have to be a nice, beautiful, picture perfect chop. It's going to go into here, and it's going to be slow cooked for about 3 hours, give or take. Then you're going to take everything out, and it's going to go through a blender. So, do what you would like. But you can see where I'm cutting it up here and how I'm cutting it up. About like so. You do want to make sure you wash these before you start cooking with them. But I just try to make some cubes, nothing fancy. Little part of the stem there, we don't want that. And with all organic vegetables, you always want to just make sure you check them before you chuck it in the pot. That's good enough. I mean, you guys can kind of get the idea. This is a nothing fancy soup. Doesn't require a whole lot of precision, which is what's really nice about it. And it's just delicious. This is great if you're on a diet, and you can dress this up or you can dress it down. So if you want to add some meat to it, you can actually add meat to it. If you don't want any meat and you want a vegetable-less dining experience, or I'm sorry, a vegetable dining experience, vegetarian, and not a carnivore experience, you don't have to add any meat. You can add chili peppers, you can not add chili peppers. You can do however you would like. About this point here, we've got our decent base. I don't really have a set recipe for it. This is a bouillon cube, and you're going to use 2. I use 1 herbal and then 1 French onion for the soup base. Not that big of a deal. You can use whatever you would like, whatever you have. You can use beef stock, chicken stock, whatever you would like, however you would like. That's the beautiful thing about it. There we go. These we're just going to set off to the side, and I'll show you why in a little bit. Because what man doesn't love using power tools in the kitchen? Well, I'm going to show you how to use some power tools in the kitchen, guys. Everybody needs power tools. If they don't, they're wrong. So you're just going to go ahead and keep chopping up your tomatoes. All right? And again, like I said, this is a nothing fancy tomato soup recipe. Okay? This is your basic recipe, and you can make it any which way that you choose. I will, however, heavily recommend a nice grilled cheese sandwich to accompany this. Being as how I am still on my diet, which, as you can see from the camera, it's working. See? Look at that. I'm losing weight, which is awesome. Now we're just going to keep going. Now this is going to be enough soup with these tomatoes here to feed about 4 people. Or if you're like myself, this is going to feed me 4 times. The other thing you can do is, if you want to, if you like black beans, you can add black beans to it. Some people do, some people don't. I don't want to add black beans to these. If I did, I would add it in at the end. So we'll let the jury be out on that one for right now. I might decide to put some black beans in at the end and just cook it a little bit longer after it gets blended. Because you don't want blended beans in your soup. That's just weird, right? I mean, I'm sure somebody likes it, but probably not me. Alrighty. So that is the end of our little slice and dice here. Oh. Give me a moment. Now the next thing you're going to want to add is some more veggies. We've got, if it's not enough, go get the chopper. Get the chopper. So now we've got some bell peppers. We've got garlic. I like garlic, so I'm using a lot of garlic. We've got some onion. And at the very bottom, these little guys are Indian shallots. Shallot is kind of like a sweet onion, has a very nice taste, especially when you're cooking something for a long time. So I'll be right back. Oh wait, you guys probably want to see this because it's violent, huh? All right, let's show you some kitchen violence. We're gonna take this. This is my little chopper machine. It is nothing fancy. And we don't want to get it too fine. Look at that. All that chopping is done for me now. That is awesome. All right. Grab the handy dandy silicone spatula and just scoop it all in, man. Now here is where a lot of people go wrong when they make their own tomato soup. Okay? You're gonna have to add a little bit of water, but tomatoes are full of water, and all of these vegetables are full of water. So we're just gonna mix some of that up. All right, cool. Now, break up your bouillon cube a little bit, just kind of, it's gonna dissolve naturally once it gets warm anyway, but you know, if you can break it up a little bit, break it up a little bit, like I just did there. So now, we're gonna grab some oregano. Unfortunately, all I have is dry oregano, so that's what we're gonna use. This is all about the Come As You Are show. Now, we're gonna throw, I wanna say, that much. That's about a tablespoon, give or take. And we're gonna grab some basil. As soon as I locate it, there we go. And some chili powder. So this is a little bit of cumin, and I'm just gonna use a little bit. I'm not gonna use a whole lot. But about a teaspoon or so. Let's actually measure it. Alright. Get about a teaspoon. A little bit extra is okay. A little bit less. There we go. Good enough. That's about a teaspoon. Just a little bit, not a whole lot. And I've got some chili powder. The more you add, the hotter it'll get. But this right here will just add a nice little bit of a smoky flavor. Not a whole lot. If you notice, it doesn't take a whole lot. I would probably say 1/4 of a teaspoon would be more than enough. Remember, you're not trying to make it spicy. It's going to naturally be spicy at the end of this, after it's done cooking. And we're going to add a little bit of black pepper. I apologize, I don't have a pepper grinder. This is what I got, so this is what I'm using. This is, again, about a teaspoon. All right? So, nothing horribly fancy. Now we're going to grab some smoked paprika, one of my favoriteest things. And we're going to put about 4 or 5 pinches of this, which is about a half a teaspoon, approximately. Here we go. Now, if you guys notice, I'm not adding any salt whatsoever. And that's because it's not really needed here. The bouillon cubes have a little bit of salt in it, and you can always add salt at the end of it when you're serving it. Whoever's eating it can add their own salt. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and break this up a little. That's 1 bouillon cube, nicely smushed. Ah, look at that. There's the other one. Go ahead and smush it. Get messy. Don't be scared. Get in there. Grind it. Now, how much water are we going to add? Not a lot. We're going to add about 3/4 of a cup. That's it. That's all the water you need. All the rest of the water is going to come out of the vegetables. So now that you've got all the veggies and your onions and your garlic and all that good stuff just kind of marinating in there, doing its thing, we're going to come back over here. You guys are coming along for the ride. All right, cool. So now we've got all of that done. We've got it sitting here chilling out in the crock pot. Remember to police up your mess after yourself. Keep it all in the sink, and that way it's easy to wash. So we got this going. Take a moment and put up our spices. Don't throw it. All right, cool. So now we've got this all set up and ready to go. This is where you have to ask yourself, do I want to do it on low or do I want to do it on high? In my case, I want to do it on high because I'm hungry and I would like to eat in a little bit. So I'm going to put it on high for about 3 hours. And when we come back, I'm going to be taking it out of here, putting it into the blender, showing you how that works. And then we're going to put the soup, well, actually we're not going to put it back in here. We're going to go ahead and put the completed soup into a regular pan because it's a whole lot easier to put that into the refrigerator. You don't want to refrigerate your ceramic here because if you change the temperature on this too drastically, you can actually shatter it. So put it on high. We'll be back in about 3 hours. Love you guys. You guys are going to love this stuff. I know you're like, oh, tomato soup. Trust me, guys. After you try it, you're going to be like, oh, this is amazing. This is not Campbell's tomato soup. This is not that garbage that you get at the grocery store. This is wonderful, wonderful soup. It's very subtle. It even changes color. And you'll see that when we get to the end of this. That's how you know that it's about right. When these red tomatoes start turning a little bit orangish, that's how you know you're pretty much done. And it's barely even hot, but it smells amazing already. Anyway, see you guys in a little bit. All right, guys. So we're about an hour and a half into the cooking. We're just gonna give it a little stir. This stuff smells absolutely amazing. Now, at this point, you can actually take it, put it in the blender, and make it into soup if you want. Or you can let the magic keep happening. This is really hot, and I'm tired of burning myself, so I'm just going to grab a little towel. Just going to want to make sure that it's nicely stirred. Really, the smell is I wish you guys could smell this through the camera because it smells outstanding. The garlic, the onion, the tomatoes. It's yummy. Gonna give it a little taste test, see where we're at. That is divine. We're gonna throw some more of this oregano in. Not a whole lot. About another teaspoon or so. And we're gonna throw some dry basil in at this time. You don't want to throw it in right off the jump. You want to throw it in a little bit later. But we're gonna put in about a teaspoon. Yeah, about a teaspoon. A little over a teaspoon. Again, just give it a little mix. Remember though, guys, don't add salt to this. You can add salt later to taste. So now we got that good and mixed up. Give it another little taste test here. Just a little liquid. That is awesome sauce. That's right where it should be. So now we're just gonna let this bad boy go. Go, baby, go. And we'll be back in another hour. Alrighty, guys. So now we're about just under 2 hours into the cook. Just under, not quite over. But if you have a look carefully, you'll see how the tomatoes are starting to change color. That means we're getting where we want to be. Now we're going to give this another 30 minutes. Give a little taste test. Give it a little taste test here. I'm going to turn the heat up slightly, but I'm going to give it a little taste test. Magnificent. So we'll be back in about 30 minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and put it in the blender. Again, if you're doing it on the regular stovetop, you can do it on a regular stovetop, preferably if you have an electric stove, and you want to use really low heat, and you can do this in about an hour to 2 hours. If you really want to get fancy, you can cook this stuff for about 4 to 5 hours, but there comes a point where you can't really cook it longer and make it taste better. So you have to get it kind of that happy balance. I find that happy balance is at a minimum of 1.5 hours and at a maximum of about 5 hours. Now, again, this is just enough to do a small group of people. And remember, don't add salt. Add salt at the end. We'll be back. Alrighty, guys, so we're back. As you can see, I've got the pan set up, or the pot I should say. I got the blender, and we got the soup. So this is why it doesn't matter how finely you chop the tomatoes, because you're gonna blend them anyway. So you just go ahead and very carefully, because it is hot. And remember, you're trying not to make a mess. So I'm actually gonna put, you know what? I think a paper towel would probably work a little better. I'm gonna go ahead and use a paper towel. We got us a couple of these here paper towels. And we're just gonna try and not make a big giant mess. That's basically what we're trying to do. So and once again, we're just putting it into a pot because it's a heck of a lot easier to put that back into the fridge when you have leftovers. than it is, you know, to try to put this thing into the fridge. And you don't want to damage the slow cooker. You know what? I think I'm going to get a bigger spoon. I think a bigger spoon would help. Yeah, it's not exactly bigger, but every little bit helps. The other thing to remember when you use your slow cooker is you have to let it come down to room temperature before you try to clean it, because you could run the risk of shattering it if you have one like mine anyway. Alrighty, well, we're just gonna go for it. If I mess this up, I'm not even gonna edit it out. I'm just gonna let you guys watch the horror show as it goes. Alrighty. Well, I did not make a mess, so kind of proud of myself. Go Daddy. Alright, now, I want you guys to notice the top of the blender is missing, and it's missing for a reason. Whenever you blend a hot liquid, it can cause it to basically pop out of the top and kind of sort of explode everywhere in the kitchen, and it's just not what you want to do. So instead, what you're going to do is put a cloth over the top, and then you're going to get a kitchen towel and put that over the top of that, and you're going to start blending. So it's going to get loud. It would help if I turned it on. And you're just going to keep going until it gets nice and smooth. You want to make sure the heavy chunks float to the bottom, or sink to the bottom, I should say, not float. So you can use the pulse function for that. And the longer you let this go, the smoother it's going to be. We're just going to let her rip, tater, chip. If you listen to the sound, it changes a little bit as it starts to get smoother. So we're going to check this out. We're going to try it, see where we're at. If you notice, the color has changed also a little bit. Give that a little taste test. That is killer, guys. That is some awesome soup. I want to go just a little bit more. But holy cow, that is freaking amazing. That is really good. The flavor is just awesome. If you're taking a ride to Flavor Town, which you definitely are, let me tell you what, guys. This, right now as it sits, is an 8 out of 10. Let's get it to 10 of 10, shall we? Alrighty. Well, that's all she wrote for this step. Make sure you take the lid of the blender off of it when you pour it out. And if you can't really tell on the camera right now that the color has changed a bit, you're gonna see right about meow. There you go. See how it's become kind of a nice dark orangish color? That's the color that it's supposed to be, not the red color that you get with the store-bought Campbell's soup stuff. No, sir. Now it's really easy to reheat this whenever you want to have your seconds. And here's the beautiful thing about tomato soup. You can have it hot, you can have it cold, you can have it any way you like it. One of the things that I actually like is with a little bit of sour cream, and I like to melt mozzarella in it. So now, how do we get this from an 8 to a 10? Let me show you. Okay, now we're sitting at a 9. Why? Because the soup is going in the bowl. We don't want to let this cool down too much because we still want it nice and hot. So now I'm going to be right back with my secret weapon. This is how I make this go from an 8 to a 10. Remember, we're already at a 9 because it's in the bowl. This is what actual mozzarella cheese looks like. So this is actual mozzarella cheese here. Ooh, careful, don't drop the camera in the soup. All right, so this is mozzarella cheese. This is what it actually looks like. I know you're used to seeing the stuff in the store, but whatever. This is real mozzarella cheese. And you're just gonna drop it in there. Just like so. You wanna let that get melty. And it doesn't take a whole lot to melt real mozzarella cheese, guys. So the heat that's left in the bowl will be more than sufficient. I'm gonna go ahead and add me a little bit more. I'm gonna add some more soup here because I'm hungry. Now here's the great thing. Even if you don't put any meat in it, it's still a wonderful, wonderful soup. You can add meat to it, which will make it even more hearty. If you really want to, you can actually put some celery in there for flavor too. I'm gonna put a little bit more of this mozzarella in there, guys, because this stuff is awesome. Real mozzarella cheese, you just give it a little squish, kind of flatten it out, and then let it get melty. You can use cheddar, you can use mozzarella, you can use whatever kind of cheese you have handy, or none at all if you don't like cheese. That's the beautiful thing about it. And that's why I keep saying, don't add salt while you're cooking it. You want to wait until you get to this point because you're going to figure out how you want to finish it. Let's give it a little taste test. All right, now the cheese is not fully melted yet. It takes a little bit, but you can see it's already getting nice and gooey in there. Alrighty. Now we're at 9.5, and we're just going to add a little bit of salt. And when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit of salt. Alright, well, I have seasoning salt handy, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm just going to put a little bit of seasoning salt. That's it. Now you can add a little bit of lemon juice if you want. You can add a little bit of lime juice if you want. You can add sour cream at this point if you want. You can make you a grilled cheese sandwich, which I can't because I'm on my diet. But you can do a lot of stuff with it. It's just a simple soup. If you have fresh basil, this is where you add your basil. And that, gentlemen, that is a 10 out of 10 for the flavor. That is not just a ride to Flavor Town. That is a trip to the Flavor Nation. That's how awesome it is. Another thing that you can do, and I highly recommend, is you add just a little bit of butter to it. I know it sounds weird, but you add just a little bit of butter. I'm gonna put a little bit of butter in it, and that just it just helps to make it that much more creamy. So I'm gonna put a little butter actually in the main soup itself, and I'm gonna heat that for a little while. All right, really, I forgot to do it. I apologize. But hey, we don't edit our mistakes here. So we're gonna put about that much butter. I forgot this step. I hope you guys will forgive me, but that's it. We're just gonna turn it there with the heat on low. Let that butter melt. Now this bowl is still hot enough. You can see now the cheese is getting melty. The butter's getting melty. Oh yeah. That is a solid 12 out of 10. So, now you guys see my secret tomato soup. Have a good night. I know I will.